All right. Well, before when I was first getting started and said that I needed your guys' help organizing my thoughts and ideas. Well, this next section is one of the big sections that I really would like your input and probably need some help with. And this is kind of this visual representation. And this is the best way that I was able to kind of make everything fit and make sense for the plan that I was trying to accomplish. And I'm a very visual person. And for some reason, I just kept having the same vision in my mind pop up. And it was a pyramid, kind of like the food pyramid, or what is it? Maslow's hierarchy, those pyramids, which is really confusing because they're actually triangles. A pyramid's a three-dimensional shape. But anyway, what really helped me get all of this together, kind of my thoughts and ideas, was this whole visual world that I have. And like I mentioned before, the whole pyramids, this is, for lack of better term, after I explain this, maybe you can give me a better idea for names, but this is the pyramid world. And this is your world. This is a kind of a visual representation of your life, the playing field, and everything you can do in there and everything you can build. And the reason that I think I got to this point was I'll step back a little bit. When I was done with college, I got a business degree, but then I went to work with my dad in his fabrication and machine shop. A lot of people don't even know what machining is. And that's basically taking a chunk of metal, running tools through it, and making it into something very precise. I spent a lot of time learning that. I went to school. I put myself through school. I had spent thousands of hours, hundreds and thousands of dollars on tooling and all of this stuff. And long story short, my goal was to take over that business. I did, in a series of unfortunate events, as far as my father passing away. Realized pretty quickly that that was not what I wanted to do. But for months, probably even years, I felt like I had wasted so much of my time learning these skills and these experiences, because I was like real certain that I was not going to go back to that, at least not in the traditional sense, because quite frankly, it's one of these business models that I think is totally outdated. I think there's so much capital, so much responsibility, so much stress that goes on with a business like that, especially machining, that I didn't want to touch it before. But I felt like I had all of these years of experience that I just basically had to wash away because I wasn't going to be a machinist anymore. And that was something that was really difficult for me to kind of grasp with. And so just kind of wrestling with these thoughts, I eventually got to this pyramid world. And this helped me look at my experiences through machining and fabrication and working with my father, and years, quite frankly, that I felt were very, I don't want to say wasted, but could have been spent in much different situations that could have, quote unquote, advanced my life quite faster. But I was doing this for an opportunity. And then once that opportunity came and go, I was like, okay, well, I spent all this time. And when it comes to machining, there's a lot that comes into this, but I couldn't really separate them out into pieces. I could only look at it as a whole. But when it comes to machining, I mean, you have to be very, very precise, and you have to be very consistent and repetitive. You have to have a tremendous amount of patience. You have to problem solve. You really have to plan all the way through the processes. There was just a lot that went into this. So when I kind of started thinking about this and started piecing these out, I was like, okay, like essentially, I'll try to maybe explain it like this. I was looking in my pyramid world. I was looking at this pyramid that was totally built and ready to go. And that was machining. And I was looking at this and I was like, well, this is worthless. I'm never going to use this again. I don't want a machine. I don't want to do any of this. So screw it. Never looking we're dealing with these skills again. But that was pretty much my entire adult life. So I somehow just started to kind of like look at this as a place of like, okay, well, this skill, this thing that I have, is like there's a lot of bits and pieces to it that make this whole skill set, i.e. my pyramid. This pyramid, one of them. And you can kind of start to visualize, okay, well, to complete this, to be able to actually be a machinist, you have to have all these things I talked about. Precision and patience, math skills, experience in this. You have to understand cutting speeds, but not just that. I mean, that if you understand cutting speeds, you understand physics and velocity, and you just understand a lot of these other principles and concepts and skills and knowledge and experience that goes into building this pyramid. And I was like, oh, you know what? There's a lot of good pieces in there. I wonder if there's some way that I can use those. And that's kind of how this whole idea of this pyramid world came to be. And it also came to be, I'll go on another tangent, not step back, but kind of an idea that I've had was, I feel that life, a lot of ways that people look at life is basically you're on this path. Imagine this painting, and it's a beautiful landscape, and there's a path that goes right through it. And there's your life. Like, you start there and you walk through it, and that's, everybody tells you where to go, and it's plain and simple, and it's right there. That never really worked out for me, but I loved kind of the visualization. And for me, I was like, well, screw that, man. I don't want this path. Like, I want to go look at these trees over here in the corner. I want to go look at this river. And I might want to spend a lot of time over here because I don't really like paths. And maybe I just get an inkling to go spend a lot of time by the river. And maybe I want to go to the front of the path where I started, or maybe I want to sprint through. But I don't want to stay on this one designated way of me for me to do things, or for anybody to do things. And I feel like that's kind of how a lot of people, I know I did, visualize life. And I think that's how a lot of people teach it too. Like, it's a simple thing. It's like, kind of the good old ones. Get good grades in high school, get into a good college, get good grades in college, you're going to get a good job, then you can get a good wife, and then you can get a good house, and then you can have a nice picket fence, and then you can retire, and then God knows what the hell you do once you retire, because nobody gets that far or gives a crap, because nobody actually usually gets that far, not recently. So that never worked for me. But that's kind of, that reference of a picture is kind of the outlay of this pyramid world of like, no, you're here. You get to live and do whatever you want in here. And this world is made up of anything you want to build. And that's kind of where this intention comes. And the reason, like, I just keep visualizing these pyramids, and the point of this, so you have this pyramid world and all of these pyramids that you have and building blocks, you can arrange them however you want, and you can create them however you want, but nobody's going to do it for you. And there's 3 different stages of this pyramid world, this life, and they are the wander, the climb, and the conquer. Again, all of these can be changed, and if they don't make sense, I would love to get your input, because I need you guys to understand this. But the point of this is like, okay, so the whole pyramid world is this picture, and you can do whatever you want. And the first part is this wander. So you go and explore this world, and this is also becoming self-aware. Go see what type of skills you have in your life. Go see what pyramids you have already built. And the thing with the pyramids is there's building blocks of these pyramids. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but let's see if I can. Oh, they're in here somewhere. Let's see if I can just remember them off of the top of my head. So each pyramid is, there's 4 basic building blocks. That's knowledge, skill, experience, and assets. Those are the only things that you can really have in life. I mean, I'm sure you can go and look at it differently, but those are the 4 things, okay? And for an example of the three different skill, experience, and knowledge. I have this example of building a table. And there's three different people that I want you to kind of understand this. So there's somebody who can build the most beautiful three-legged coffee table in the world. Absolutely nobody can do it better. That is skill. Absolutely, dude's got mad skill. Now there's another guy who has been building tables for 40 years. Every type of table, 10 legs, 3 legs, 9 legs, metal, wood, everything, every different height, every different way. But he's not the best, but he can build any table you want. That's experience. Now there's another guy who has written a book of every way that anybody has ever made a table, all the way from the beginning of time through every crazy tool that has ever been made, every possible way that it ever has been made. That is knowledge. So those are your three non-tangible personal building blocks for these pyramids. And then the last one is assets, which is just, it could be whatever it is. It could be money, it could be a car, it can be whatever you need for that particular structure to be built. If you need to do a machining business, part of that would be machines. That's your assets. So there's just kind of those are the kind of the building blocks for, these are how pyramids are built. So the wander aspect of this is because we've all been building these pyramids, we all have skills, and we've all been putting these skills into certain pyramids. Some we didn't know we were building, some we built with intentions, some we don't even know how they got there. So the wander part of this is going through and looking at your life, looking at your pyramid world, looking at the skills that you've already developed and built, and looking at how you've already put these building blocks into a bigger picture, like I did with machining. Maybe, however you have done this, maybe you have a skill in gymnastics and you've been doing that since you were very young. Well, there's a lot that goes into that. And maybe you didn't even consider this, but you're like, oh, you know what? I really understand how the body works. And I understand, the importance of competition and discipline and nutrition, whatever it could be. But you have to get an inventory, essentially, the wander. And then not only that, so the wander is, you're looking at what you've already built, but you're also getting an inventory of what building blocks you already have. Like what have I already built? What are the skills that I already have? And how can I use these to build other things? Because part of this exponentiality is if you spend the time and put your core blocks, which is the knowledge, experience, skill, and assets, if you put those, you can build other, what they're called, like core blocks. Like one of them might be computer skills. So computer skills is built up of, actually, I'm going to use camera skills because I actually know a little bit about cameras and nothing about computers. So let's go there. With the camera skills, once I've actually gotten through, I've gathered enough to understand, to have the knowledge of how a camera works and enough experience to quit screwing it up and the assets to actually have paid for them and to get a computer that I can use and to have the cables and the understanding of how to do this. Once I have put those together, and it can be very small, that will build, let's call it a cinematography or a photography pyramid. Now that can turn into its own building block, essentially. And I'm kind of using the examples that I've done, then they're in here, but like the way that I wanted to do this, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but once you have these skills built, you can use them in every other endeavor. This is part of the exponentiality. Once you know cameras, you can use a camera in any way it can be used. Same thing with, if you understand machining, you can go use machining in any way. You can consult, you can teach gymnastics, you can coach, you can do YouTube, but any of these things. So that's the first part of this is the wander. Go and take an inventory of everything that you've already done. And here's just, I'm just going to read the list that I have underneath the wander. These are either going to be chapters or ideas that I touch upon. Maybe they'll resonate with you. Maybe it'll give you a little bit of a better idea. But some people need to get lost before they can find themselves. And I know that was true for me. I was on a path that I knew I didn't want to go on, and I got to the end and it sucked. And I said, I got to get out of here. So I started wandering. And this section, I know more. I'm much more experienced in the wander section than some of these others, but I think you'll see how they all play together. But next, how do you know what building blocks you already have? Well, becoming self-aware. How do you know what pyramids you want to build? Great question. How do you know? Well, this wander is basically your self-reflection. Sit there. What do you want to build? I wanted to be a YouTuber, so I had to learn how to use a camera and then a computer. And then turns out I had to learn about audio, and I had to learn about the algorithm and all this other stuff. Another thing with the wander, be alone. Be alone and deal with your thoughts. Like, that's a whole chapter in and of itself. Address your internal conflicts. That helps being alone, because you got a lot of crap going on inside. Address it. Quit pushing it off, and especially quit using alcohol to get rid of it. Like, I tried that for years. It's an amazing drug, but it's just going to screw you over. So get off the alcohol, address your internal conflicts. Find your God. Find your illusion of control. Find the power of faith. So these are the other side of this coin, is realize what you can and can't control. And once you realize what you can't control, quit worrying about it. Find your God. Find your inner peace. Find whatever you need to quit worrying about it. Accept your trauma. This is something that was really important to me. And by the way, these are just notes of what I've done. Again, just an organized thought of how I've done these things. But accept your trauma. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like I've had not at all a terrible life, but there are definitely some things that have been far from ideal. And regardless, in our society, I think we actually, I know we do, we put our heads in the sand and say, somebody has it worse, somebody has it worse, somebody has it worse. And that's true. Somebody's always going to have it worse. That doesn't mean you don't have it bad. And with those traumas, there's a lot of crap that comes with it. I promise you, because I'm dealing with it, and you have to accept it to be able to address it. So that's a big point of the wander. And yeah, well, I'll just leave that there. Again, all these are probably going to be talking points, maybe, hopefully. This is a fun one. Let the ape out. Don't ignore your biology. I was raised in a relatively Christian, God-fearing, religious, yada, yada, yada. Let's just say there's a lot of biology that they don't want you to accept. And I think that's one of the most damaging things. But just understand, yes, we are sentient beings with all, we're just on a different plane. But at the same time, we're a freaking hairless ape. You have biological desires that you're never going to get around. Quit trying to act like you're superhuman. You need certain things in life. For me, some of these that I had to realize is like, as much as I don't want to admit it, like human connection, community, even though people can really annoy me, I am a communal being. I need to be around people. So just, that's, let the ape out. Quit ignoring your biology. Trust your intuition and test it. Test your moral compass. Just know everything that has ever happened to you, including your trauma, your intuition, your moral compass, letting the ape out, accepting your trauma, your internal conflict, all of these are building blocks. Everything can be used. You just have to recognize them and use them. Huge one. Huge, huge, huge one that I think this society is starting to come around to, but cultivate your creativity. These minds are what separates us from the actual apes. Use this. You're not some stinking cog. You're not just here to do what other people tell you to do. You have a beautiful mind that could only be formed through your experiences. Let that creativity out. Cultivate that creativity. One, it's going to be incredibly lucrative. Two, it's going to be incredibly fulfilling. I really do feel like the creativity is kind of the pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy, which arguably he had that backwards. But anyway, cultivate your creativity. Identify your strengths and label your aspirations. Aspirations is going to be a huge thing for this book because I think aspirations are really great. I actually have a thing in here. Part of your wander is find your aspirational pyramids. And I think aspirations are better than goals, not better than goals. I think you need to have an aspiration in order to break down your goals. For me, my aspirations are, I want to be a badass and do epic shit. So those are my aspirations. That's not a goal. You don't get to that point. There are certain things that I can do. And as far as, travel, exercise, there are certain things, but have an aspiration. I think those are very important because they can also be very fluid. They can change, where I think goals are a very valuable tool that are most often used improperly. And I think they can be incredibly dangerous when done so. So basically, that was kind of the overview of the wander section of the pyramid world, your life. Now, the next section is called the climb. And I just kind of liked that because it really should be better described as kind of the building or the assembly. But for the semantics, I think the climb sounds pretty good. But basically what the climb is as you are sitting here building your pyramid, you are climbing. This is the process. This is the process of building the skills, building your dream life, building your aspiration pyramids. And the climb, this is the part that, this is the process. I mean, it's all kind of a process, but this is the work. The wander is sitting here, the planning. What do I want to do? What do I want my life to look like? The climb is putting this into action. And it's the reason I say climb is because as you're doing this, and this is kind of another level of exponentiality. I'll try to explain this. So you can work on different planes. So you understand the whole pyramid world. So that's one visual element. Now, when you're climbing, when you're building these pyramids, imagine that you are now focused in on this one aspect. Now, this is the plane that you are living on. This is your world, just for the time being. The climb is searching around and being like, what skills do I need here? How do I put these skills in place? You're sitting here on a pyramid building these things. You're sitting here pulling the blocks that you had from over here, putting them in place, seeing what are the next building blocks that we need. How am I going to build these? And you're doing it. And you're climbing this pyramid. But as you're climbing, you're seeing, you're evaluating, and you're pivoting, and you're figuring out the next process. That's another level of this exponentiality, is being able to go to different worlds, because I think it's important to focus on enjoying the processes of things, because I was somebody who was so goal-oriented that being goal-oriented is not a bad thing, but it is a very unfulfilling thing. I can tell you that, because you're only happy when you achieve a goal. And that is a fleeting thing, because you're not happy after you've achieved the goal. All you wanted was this sliver to cross the finish line. And then you cross the finish line, you're done. And now it's on to the next goal. And so you spent 99.9% of your time getting to this goal, 0.1% actually achieving it, and then just on to the next. So that's not the way to do this. Not the way that I see this going. So anyway, okay, that's kind of rambled as much as I can on the climb. I'm just going to go and read the notes that I have underneath this. Probably spark something. Okay, so under the climb, some sub points, possible chapters, or at least talking points is somebody has already done it. Just copy them. anything you want to do in life, including doing something completely new. Somebody's already done that. They've written a book about it, TV show, interviews. They're all out there. There is a science to success. Somebody has already done it. Go find them and do what they did. That freaking simple. I mean, I know it's simple. I haven't been doing it for the last 30 years, but trying to. Simple, not easy, but simple. Next. Here's a really interesting saying that I think is a very powerful thing. And tough decisions equals easy life. Easy decisions equals tough life. And I think that that's very true. And I think it applies very much into the building aspect, the climb, as far as, while you're sitting here, make the decisions that you know are going to get you to where you need to go. And these generally aren't the easy ones. They are not the stay in bed, hit the snooze, wait till tomorrow. They're not those. The tough decision is get up now, submit it. Finally record the freaking video you've been talking about for months. That's the type of stuff which was not an easy decision. But when you guys see this and it goes gangbusters and viral and everything like that, it'll be worth it. By the way, subscribe, please, would you? because I need subscribers, because part of this exponential income is actual income. Haven't got there yet in the real life or in the outline yet, but we're getting there. So yeah, please hit that subscribe button. Also, I mean, kind of not the time I wanted to, but I do have some other crowdfunding going on. I'm actually not even going to talk about it right now. I'll do that in a different spot. Okay, going down the climb with your tough decisions. Here's one. Be decisive. This is a skill that can be learned. It is a very important skill, and I can pretty much guarantee you are wasting too much of your life being indecisive. Learn how to make decisions. You can change them later. There are very few that are permanently devastating. Learn to take criticism. Learn to pivot. Also, learn what criticism to listen to, because no matter what, if you try to do anything with your life, there are going to be haters. Some of them are wrong. Most of them are wrong, because most of them are just jealous and have never tried to do anything with their own lives. So you have to know who to listen to and who not to. There are people that have already done all these things. Those are the people I would listen to. Next, probably the single most important thing, I'll probably say that 10 more times, on this entire list is enjoy the process. That's the entire freaking goal of this, is to actually put together a life, a plan, a process that you can enjoy. Hopefully you get the outcomes that you've been planning on, and you will, if you follow the steps that other people have put out. But enjoying the process is absolutely so critical. Only focus on the next stage. I have lived so much of my life trying to plan out steps D, E, and F. And I very rarely took care of A, B, and C when I should have. Next subpoint in this is no end goals. I think that they are dangerous, because that implies you're done. You're there. And unless your end goal is dying, which, I mean, fine, go for it, because that one's going to be real final. Why worry about these end goals? These end goals implies there's nothing left. And if you talk to any of these people that are relatively successful, that have a lot of money, that just, most people get fulfillment in life by doing, producing, creating, helping, doing something different, not just being done. Got here, done. If that's you, you just want to live your life on the couch with your programming and your microwave TVs. That's great. Good for you. You've made it. Again, probably not the show you should be watching. Next stage of the pyramid world is the conquer. The conquer is basically when you have gotten to the top of the climb, when you have conquered this pyramid, when you have evaluated what building blocks need to be there. You have put the time in to fit everything into place. You have the skills, knowledge, assets, and experience. You're there. It's done. Congratulations. You've conquered this pyramid. What that means is, one, I mean, there's a lot that this can mean. Like, one, this is a fully functioning, formed being, entity that you can derive tons of value from. Let's take YouTube, or let's take videography. Let's use that. We already kind of did that. Okay, I am not even remotely claiming to have conquered this at all. I'm still halfway through the climb. And it's pivoting. My just a little bit of a side tangent, which is in these notes somewhere. Like, I originally thought with this whole YouTube thing, this is why I think the aspirations are important, is like, I thought, you know, my aspiration was to be on YouTube, because I think that there's a lot of really cool, actually here, it's right in here somewhere. Anyway, I'm not going to. The whole aspirational thing was YouTube. And I thought this meant I had to be a great cinematographer. I thought this meant I had to be videographer and really know camera. And as I was doing it, I started to realize, like, that's actually not what I was trying to go for at all. I really am actually trying to be a good storyteller. And I'm also trying to, my value hopefully is more in the acting and the doing, other than the beautiful films, because quite frankly, I'm just going to be sitting in front of this camera for quite a while and not changing much, because editing is really difficult and takes a really long time, and I'm no good at it, and I have a lot of other things that are more important. There's my aspirational pyramid of YouTube. And I've realized, okay, being a fantastic cinematographer is not going to be a real essential part of that process. But once I do have the understanding, the knowledge of these cameras and this type of stuff, well, this is a fully formed, I can go and make money shooting film for somebody, or taking pictures, weddings, or whatever. I can make, which I plan on doing, I can make videos on how to actually use these things, or different for beginners, or anything like this. But once this is conquered, this can be very small to very large. It could also be a business, putting a business in place. It could be a relationship. It can be a process. But once you've taken the time to find the layers and climb, build this pyramid, once it's there, once it's conquered, it's yours. And this is where another layer of this exponentiality comes in, because once you have this pyramid, it is now a building block. You can use it as many times as you want, as much as you want, infinitely. So, and then once you have that, once you have this building block, now, like, let's say it was cinematography. Once you do have this, it literally opens up all of the other pyramids that you could build, because now you have that skill, you have that experience, you have that knowledge, and you have these assets. So it's kind of how this exponentiality builds on each other. So yeah, I mean, I'll just leave that there, because that was kind of a fleeting thought. Okay. I mean, I think it kind of goes without saying, but like the whole, you know, once you have these building blocks and these pyramids in your own little world, these of course can be used for the outside world. Like, if you are fantastic with the camera, you can go get on a crew somewhere. You can be part of a bigger project that might be part of your aspirational pyramids. Here's some of the scopes of the exponentiality, like I was just talking about. So first layer is kind of is the pyramid world, our world that we live in. That's just kind of everything. So that's all of life, all of reality. And then you can kind of go into the thought of, actually, okay, so I'm just going to kind of Okay, so there's one other aspect to these pyramid and this pyramid world, which is, I think, a new element to, and possibly the catalyst for this idea. But that is basically the ability to have such a reach and a community and a following with the internet. And that is such a powerful thing that I really do believe if you can leverage these things, this could very possibly be one of the most impactful parts of the exponentiality. Because, like, let's say you have your community, your online following, or whatever it is, and let's say you have built whatever it was. For me, I'll just use my videos and my book and online courses. Every time my following, my influence grows a little bit, everything I have already done is impacted by that. Because now if I have one person, well, now, like, if now they have access to everything that I've already done. And every time I put one more thing on the internet, on YouTube, that is one other aspect of exponentiality. And that one more video might get one other person, which in turn, they might watch this other video. And it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And I think that it's something that I really kind of rejected for a while, the whole influencer thing. And that is not what I am talking about. Being an influencer is very different than having influence. Obviously, they're kind of based on the same thing, but big freaking difference. Just because you can get somebody to use shampoo doesn't mean you have real influence. It just means you're a shepherd of sheeple. But I like that. That is one of the biggest aspects of this exponentiality, because, like, starting now, I have basically no influence, no following, no nothing. And I'm hoping that this will work. And I'm hoping to be kind of an inspiration to show that you actually can. Because if I keep doing this, the science of success has said I will get to the goals that I have planned, hopefully. So that's one of the aspects of the exponentiality. Man, I should have wrote better notes about how the whole exponentiality part works out. But I'll try to go through this. So the exponentiality is any skills that you have can be used for any pyramids. Once you have conquered a pyramid, this now is another building block that can be used everywhere else. So that's one more skill of exponentiality. And as you continue to build these things, they continue to grow and grow and grow and open more and more opportunities and can be used in other outside worlds. And then another aspect of the exponentiality is the following and the influence that you have. And the more and more and more that grows, all of your pyramids will be based on a foundation of your influence. The more that influence grows, the bigger those pyramids will be. And that kind of brings me to kind of the last aspect of this. And I want you to realize the last aspect. That's what I said here. And these are the income pyramids. These are, well, we understand what a pyramid is, and I'm assuming you know what income is. So these are pyramids designed to create money. This is another aspect and kind of a very important aspect of this exponentiality is the exponential income of it. Like, we have a little bit of an understanding that you have to wander to figure out what you want to do. You have to start putting plans together and climbing these pyramids until you can conquer them. But part of this is, having to understand that one of these assets is money. And we can all of our lives, try to pretend that we don't need money, but we do need money. And I think with this, like, the point of the exponential income is focus on what you want to do, focus on how your life is going, what skills you want to build on. And then once you kind of have this understanding, then you could start putting these building blocks in place that can start making you money. Like, you can write a book. You can start a YouTube. You can do online courses. And these are things that you're not trading your time one for money. You only have to do them one time and then they're there. And your influence, your following, your skills, your pyramids, everything together can start to produce income for you, value, whatever way that you want. And the way the exponential income works is focusing on these types of systems, building wealth that you don't have to trade your time for money. So let's say you write a book. Great. That book is going to make you money for the rest of your life. Congratulations. Now, spend your time writing your next book or buying property or investing, but do something where you're putting intention into building these income pyramids. Because here's the thing. Think about this. I'm 30 years old. Supposed to retire at 65, bull crap, 72 by the time I get there. So I've got 40 years that I can scrape by, pay all my bills, and hope to have maybe $1 million to live on for the next, God knows, 20 to 40 years. Who the frick knows? Or what I think is a much better idea is I can enjoy life now with some mindful intentions of how I want my life to be. And I don't have to just chase the money right now, because what I'm going to do is figure out my skills, assets, knowledge, and experiences that I can start putting these income pyramids in place. I have 40 freaking years to come up with essentially $1 million. But this is the difference, is 40 years to come up with $1 million and then spend it all. I've got 40 years to, let's step back, $1 million to spend it over the next 30 years. So you've got $30,000 a year, whatever, something like that. Why don't you just spend 40 years putting systems in place where you can get at least $30,000 a year in your pocket? That's so not difficult. You literally only have to come up with less than $1,000 of income a year to get to the same place. Passive income or semi-active income or anything like that. It is, in my mind, such a better idea, such a better way of going about it. And really the basis of this exponential income is like, hey, screw retirement, screw all of this. Let's look at this different. Let's get an evaluation of our life, where we want to go, and systems put in place that we never have to change our lives. And we don't have to forego loving our lives now for possibly doing it in the future if we make it that long. So that's where the income pyramids come in. Notice these are last. Money is important, but it should not be your number one priority. I think the evidence is out. If we look throughout our country's history, that is not an endeavor worth pursuing. Well, I'm not real sure where I left off because the dogs were freaking out and the camera kept dying, so I had to take a little bit of a break. Well, I think we talked about income pyramids, which was the idea of, pretty self-explanatory. We all know what my idea of a pyramid is, and I think we know what income is. So it's a pyramid for income. Some of the, I think, key building blocks for these income pyramids, which is just also kind of just what I think are some of the main skills that are going to be really valuable in the future and the upcoming economy. And some of them are, and especially for like these income pyramids, in order to be successful, I think budgeting, super important. Advertising, which is just being able to get your story out there. Soft skills, so your emotional IQ, communications, your organization, delegation, and differentiation. I think those are going to be some of the really core aspects. And yeah, I mean, I guess not. And those are just going to be some of the core building blocks and just aspects of these income pyramids. Okay. All right. So that is the actual kind of outline that I have, that I realize now doing this, I have a lot to add, which is great. Freaking super great, because it really does start out with the understanding and the knowing why, what you want to do, what you want your life to look like, all that type of stuff. That's really the important part, which definitely obviously needs to be added into that. Um,